Yo,
Hello. I was having trouble connecting for some reason, but I'm here. How's it going? Who's trying to connect? Oh shit.
I couldn't add Mary into the thread because she doesn't have an iPhone.
Oh, well, I sent it to her so she can figure it out. And I sent it to my group, but it was kind of short notice. They all need like an hour to hide in a room from the children.
Yeah.
Yeah, our stove just blew smoke all over the place. Caca.
Hmm.
Okay, Harry. You want to say hi to Uncle Mike? Hi, Mike. Hi. Hi, Portia.
Hi, I'm here.
Hello.
I had some technical difficulties, but I'm here.
What do you got?
I had some technical difficulties, but I'm here.
Me too. I don't know why.
Maybe it was Zoom.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got
Yeah.
signed out too.
How was your day today, Portia?
Good. Did you see that sun that came out today?
Oh, so nice. What
Spring
is
is
that?
in the air,
Yes, it's on its way.
right? I think it's closer than it is far away.
Thank God. They really have to. I need to be the person that invents whatever it's going to be that's going to make it super easy to have your phone right in front of your face without that weird, as seen on TV, face thing. You put it around your neck.
Mhm.
Not that. Just be able to get
In your retina one day.
where. What's that?
You're gonna have it in your retina one day.
Bill, no, not me. Hopefully, I'll be dead by then. Spock.
Hmm.
Did you guys see Jason in the snow? He's so funny. He got his four-wheeler lodged in something. Or side by side or whatever they.
Mr. Kenner is here with his family. They went to Disney or whatever, Hollywood or Disneyland, whatever the heck it is. Universal today.
Oh, nice.
Saw them yesterday for a while.
That's cool. Who runs the shop? Just the boys when he's gone?
Yeah, I think he just gets it all ready for having weeks off, makes minimal stuff happening.
Okay. Well, I'm proud of him. He needs to do that.
Um, so like 2 weeks ago, let me see if my door's shut. Yeah. 2 weeks ago, Levi Lusco did a drop in at Zoe. He's another pastor from the Midwest. He's probably the most grounded and humble of the whole crew they all hang out with. Amongst them, I like him a lot as a, not just a pastor, just as a human being. Him and his wife are very grounded human beings, great people. But it was cool to see him in town because he stepped in. Obviously, Chad was out of town, so he stepped in and did the message. But I don't know, I'm not keeping track of it. I don't know if they're doing both online anymore, recording them, or they're just recording one and keeping it up. I know they do live 10, 12, and 6, but I think they only record one to post it. So sometimes what happens is they do the same message at 10 and 12, but do a different one at night. This time he did that. He did the 10 and 12. The message was more targeted towards married people, and in a book he had written, it was more about marriage. The 6 o'clock was targeted at single people, so he switched it completely. I don't know if they record that post out. I know the other ones were posted, but I don't know. I wanted to share kind of part of that one, and then the topic I was going to already talk about kind of mixed in one past 2 weeks. So I had sent Amber the audio file from last Monday because I wasn't able to make it, but I still recorded the thing in the car on the way to my business dinner, and I sent her the file. I'll figure out how to upload it on the YouTube so you can listen to it. But it was kind of a mixture of that subject, this blending in on the Sunday, and I don't know, I'll just jump into it. His approach is based in the Bible, right? Like talking about relationship, talking about being married, being single, kind of what sex means, all this stuff, and it has obviously a core from the Bible in it. But it's actually I thought the message on Sunday night was, I felt like you were listening to a speaker outside the church. I think you did very well in making it. I always find these topics in church are very guilt and fear related. I feel like when tabooish conversations come up in the church environment, they come from more of a guilt standpoint than they come from a learning experience, where you go see like a sex education seminar or leave to your therapist. And this one didn't feel like that at all. I found it very interesting that he kind of made it feel like coming from an approach of like you were going to a more of a sex therapist conference than you were going to church, if that makes sense. So I like how he delivered it. He pretty much he kind of gave 5 main points or so on really talking about sex and the meaning of it. Like, what is it? The definition of it. What does it mean to people? What is it supposed to mean? So I was bringing up a couple. So he talked about the origin of sex, and he talked about the intention of sex. Talked about the distortion of sex, the repercussions of sex. Excuse me. And how it can be distorted in definition in our minds because of the accessibility, if you will, or their, like, one of them, he talked about the variety of the options of sex these days, because it is so vastly available in different variety and in different ways. But I think what the basis of the whole message, at least to me, it felt like, if we don't have our own definition of what it means and the importance of what it really is, it can be weaponized against us. And he was trying to get to the point that there's so much negative around it today. And he was trying to get to the point that there should be guilt or fear or shame in it, that God loves and wants you to have great sex. God, it wants you to have that part of your relationship wonderful. but we have to be careful of the distortion of it. So like the distortion of it would be like the flesh, like porn, the flesh things that related to sex. That'd be like the distortion of the meaning of sex. The intention of sex is supposed to be like bringing the, based on the Bible part, bringing the glory back to God first, because He created you. The idea of Adam and Eve and creating and reproduction, like first bringing the glory back to the Creator of you, of it. Another which is just pleasure, you know. Another intention of sex is pleasure. Another intention is babies, like reproduction. Another intention is the concrete bringing two souls together, like the idea of two being one. So the intention of sex, the origin, God given, right? Like we don't have it without being created. So, but as he was going through it, he had some, I don't know. I think why it has stuck to me so much is because one, I think his book's called Swipe Right. I think that's what it's called, Swipe Right. Anyway, I think it just tied into the two conversations. The one I sent Amber that file, and this one was like, been struggling with the idea of the lost art of connection. I know we kind of touched on it, like from a connect group standpoint, and humanity and us like speaking and being vulnerable and connecting with one another as humans. But like if we take it one step further with intimacy and sex, it's I feel like it's got a little out of hand as far as what that world even looks like. And I hear a lot that, well, you know, social media has ruined a lot of stuff, or dating apps has ruined a lot of stuff, or the instant gratification of swiping right, or going on a date and never seeing somebody again, or the hookup culture. I hear a lot of excuses for it, but, and I don't disagree with all of them. I think a lot has to do with a lot, but it also brings me to the point of like, what's our responsibility in it? Right? If we talk about anything, we always talk about what's our responsibility. Like, is social media ruining us, our culture, or are you spending too much time on it? Like, it's not somebody else's fault that you fall down a pigeonhole, right? It's not somebody else's fault that you keep on going in the same pattern. It's truly our decision, and the responsibility lies on us. I mean, yeah, has it become harder and harder to get away with what's right in front of our face? Sure. But doesn't mean it's not possible. Doesn't mean you can't live your life without the traps that put you in these pitfalls. So I thought it was interesting. His talk versus what I just recorded was like, what is the real intention for it? I mean, I think that's the real answer to all of this. Like, and you know, I thought a great thing you said was like, listen, I'm not up here trying to say that everybody should be married. That's not the goal. Like, you shouldn't get married if your heart's in a selfish manner. You shouldn't get married if you're not ready, or if you can't take care of yourself first. Like, he wasn't really saying like marriage is the covenant like I grew up hearing, like in the church anyway. The church was like, marriage is, it's like the thing. It's what separates you from being a good person and not. Like, you have to do that thing. Like, it was more held like this. It's like anything else, like get out of school and do the things, and the narrative what you're supposed to do is more held up. And he was, what I thought was really cool was he wasn't saying that at all. He was saying, he's not sitting here telling you, everybody in the church, that you should be married. He was saying things like, you know, just because you're, I think maybe Chad said this yesterday. I don't know, it was crossover. They're doing this whole thing, this whole series on it, but it was either Levi or Chad said something about just because our feelings are real doesn't mean they're right. I was like, oh, it's a pretty credible sense, right? Like, just because our feelings are real doesn't mean they're right for us. And it's also a reason why sometimes we should take a moment and reflect on a feeling before we act on it. It's easier to, it was easy for me to use it as a concept of like, when something really gets under your skin or pisses you off in a moment and you react and feelings come, those are real feelings, but should you react on them before you have a moment to think on it? Because if you think on it, you might, and get more rational, you might decide that maybe something just came up that had nothing to do with this. Bring that right into a relationship. I think the reason why, for me anyway, it's easier to say today that when emotional response comes up for me that has like a heated feeling to it, like I want to react or get annoyed or pissed, or it's easier for me to step off it because I've just done so much work in it, and I know for sure in my head, I know now I don't want to be angry at anything. I want to set it down. Nothing's worth it to me to get a certain level of upset in my life, or feel that feeling of the uncontrol that goes through your body. Like that makes sense to me much easier. So I can talk myself off an immediate emotion and then it's gone. I think with wanting love or wanting connection romantically in that way with somebody else, you want it so much more. You want like love, like you want, it's easy to everybody sit in a room. I don't want any anger, even if we're angry people. But you never like, I don't want any love. We don't say that. You know, it's a different, I think it's easier to fall in the trap of getting caught up in just because we have that feeling that we think it's ours or it's right for us, instead of doing the same work and really in deciding, is that just a feeling? Because that's normal. Two human beings can have a visceral or intense emotional experience and not be good for each other. And that's
And also the dopamine response, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
the chemical response, right? There's so many levels.
Exactly. And what is it, serotonin, I think maybe, that only gets released 3 different ways.
Oxytocin.
Like,
it's the bonding hormone.
Like one of those 3 ways is sex. Well, then that makes sense. Like you can have a feeling that could chemically be rushing in you and you think you're in love. I mean, that happens. So I mean, that's what I love that he said that. Like, you know, you can, just because we have feelings, we can right with feelings.
Get out of there.
And that you know, commitment. I think the other thing was, how the hell did he say it? Something about, you know, marriage can be an absolute trap of some kind if you're in the selfish mind state. It can be a downfall, a trap. Marriage could be all the bad things if your mindset is in the selfish. Your mindset is in that you don't want the death of you to create a new, you know. So that say all to like having, you have to die yourself before you can create the one with somebody else, like taking 2 to 1. You have to kill off yourself or your former version of your selfish or lonely or single or whatever it is self before you can fully commit to creating one person within 2. And I guess that really just means what, like, I used to call it compromise. Like people, you compromise. I don't think that's it. I think it's bigger than that. I think it's actual real change of who you were, not to give up who you are, but to really change to fit with that person and create a long-term unity instead of, well, this is my way and somebody needs to meet it. And vice versa.
Right. Aren't we always better when not only we have witness, whether that's one other person in a room in love or in any circumstance, and or also when we've got that like seesaw action of, I can only be better for more, you know, more people, more outcome, more whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, maybe when you talk about giving up stuff, you talk about
Stop.
what you're willing to do. Maybe it's more of a connected to the commitment, what you're willing to do, not give up or change your life, or but like, expressing it in the measure of sacrifice and what you're willing to go. How far were you willing to go? What are you willing to give up, or what are you willing to gain? I think is better to say. I used to get like a little defensive of like, I shouldn't have to give up anything. Like I spent a lot of time building my life to where like I shouldn't have to give up anything. And I used to find myself getting a little defensive to even think that maybe I would have to. But I think probably because I wasn't looking at instead of what I was gonna give up, that what I was gonna gain by leaning in or pulling back off that soapbox a little bit on that specific thing, right? You don't always have to be leading or winning on every single idea we think is ours because we believe we're doing well in our lives. That it's okay that, or maybe, you know what, maybe half my soapbox, nobody was fucking listening. I would just pretend it was, so it wasn't that important,
Even as we like grow in our relationships, those of us who have been in serious relationships, married or not, but we're long-term enough to be like a marriage. When I look back at I've only been married once, unfortunately, it didn't work for whatever reason, but the reason being now, when I can look at it 20 years later, I had false ideologies, expectations around it in youth that, oh, marriage could be fun, like marry your best friend and, this whole thing. And also I'm in charge and almost a case study in control. Like, can I still be a control freak inside of a relationship type of thing? Because even though at the time, I was in love with my partner and had a lot of good criteria there, good family support, laughter, kindness, things that could have led to success on some level. There were certain things, that now looking back, I can say not just him wasn't just him that wasn't willing to give things up, whether that was things of youth like drinking or certain things that don't fit in a marriage, or conversations about future planning, children, those kinds of things. But for me, looking back, it was like, I treated him so different than how I treat a partner now today. It was all about the fight then, or the control, or the illusion of or what it was, how we were going to set up household for the rest of the world to see, kind of like we met our mark. And now it's so different. Even though I'm not married technically, I'm in a partnership. None of that even matters now. What matters most is exactly what you said about our personal growth, not only as individuals but together.
Yeah.
If we're not growing, there's no, what are we doing, kind of thing. So that's been a huge curve. And you had said something in your talk. I hope you'll share both tonight's recording and what you recorded somehow together, link them up, because Sierra and I were listening to your recording from last week's, and one of the things that struck me about halfway through was, I liked what you were saying about, isn't it our responsibility to make sure we're correct and we're coming in healthy and we're coming in strong so that we have the best chance at success with another person? Because if we're not coming in all broken and whatnot, then we're giving it that much more of an asset, that much more of a potential good outcome. However, I kind of had a gut instinct to it, and I thought to myself, and I started to write back to you. It's funny, when you sent the link out today, I had all this stuff I wrote back to you. I thought, no, that's impossible, because there are too many variables in love, in humans, and in any two people, that you can't control every outcome and say, well, I'm going to be my best self and I'm going to find somebody that is their best self and all the things. But any one thing could change anything on any given day, right? Kind of thing. So there's like a part of that that's right, like building the foundation, right? Like a house. But in the day to day, there are so many variables in life.
Yeah, so, but that's, I guess, my point to that. I know Portia didn't listen to it yet, but what I was really saying was you can't, and I did say it in that, you can't win it. You can't do anything that's gonna win it. There's no option at the end that if I do X, Y, and Z, this will be.
Right.
They're impossible in the world. There's too much variable in human. And leading up to it, I'm saying leading up to meeting that person, but then once you meet them, now you got all the layers of years of, so it's an impossibility. But I think the more important part is it's no different than stats. If you take any stats class in college level or higher, it talks about doing as many of the things, getting as many of the variables in line so that it'll always chart in this direction, even if it goes off the path. It'll always chart. It won't go like this. And the variables won't be gapped. And when the variables are gapped largely in statistics, you can't understand why they've gone to extremes. You get lost in the idea of what's happening. Right? You think you built this great machine and you're like, it's overheating and blowing up and the engine to catch on fire. Like you go back to the engineer and say, well, how did you build the engine? He goes, oh, I wasn't keeping track. That's where variables get out of line. That's where idealisms fuck up. It's the thing of, if we're not keeping track of what keeps us on a line that's constantly moving upward, that has some variables in it, then we're going to have more of this off the thing broken, because we're not looking at what's causing it. Our responsibility we're not taking in what's causing us to fall off the track. What blows the engine up? What happened? Was the combustion rate not equal to the engine's gas flow into the thing? I don't know. I built it. It became amazing. I didn't write the notes down.
I love
And
it.
some people are that smart. They can build things that are just genius, and they don't do that. They don't scrapbook. They create, and it's in front of them. And it's not a bad thing, but that person also needs somebody in their life that documents. Right. So I mean, if that's the relationship, if two partners come together and one has that genius, that the other person needs to be more of a documenter, recorder, or and then they start to do this in each other's lives in the long term, where now they're witnessing each other's stuff and they're recording each other's, and it's like, if we're not practicing the tools leading up to it, we're going to see these variables that just nobody can understand on a map. It's like, why is this outlier so far off the track?
It's so funny. I have never heard. One of the things I love about our differences, you and I, is that you always are looking to, quantify it scientifically in that way because of your sports background. And I think it's so interesting because, man, I have been having these conversations with people for what feels like 1,000 years. And rarely have I ever heard anyone describe it in the metrics of like sports performance. And it makes so much sense when the way that you just did that in 2 seconds was like, oh, I clearly saw how the clutch engages the drive shaft, and boom, it makes sense that and you're shortening the gaps in the ebbs and flows and the highs and lows to create more consistency and predictability for long-term success, even though you can't control every variable. I love that.
True. I mean, look, it's sport related. It's
well, I mean, that's just
neutrality.
What they use, but I didn't know. We don't talk about love like that. I love that.
I mean, it's like neutrality of keeping in a space of like never have too many highs and lows, but track so that you can stay more here. It's everywhere, really. I mean, it's in medicine, it's in diseases, and it's just how much are we paying attention to? I guess it's like, I think when
no one describes it in love relationships. I don't even think I've ever heard a therapist say that. Like,
totally. I mean, this is why I think that last week recording, Levi came in, which I love, and I didn't know he was coming, and I happened to just went to the later one, not on purpose, and it happened to be that one. It's no accident, but the fact is that I think it's not that I walked in, it's the message I needed to hear. Like sometimes you get that in church. I think it's just what's going on at such a loud level that everybody's listening now and everybody's trying to figure it out. Even somebody like Levi he's writing books about it and he's happily married.
Yeah, that's weird.
But he's writing books about the portion of the single life and the crossover, what it takes to get in a marriage, and do you really want to be in there? So if it's at that level, that means one to two things. Him and his wife do a lot of work, right? Just on relationship things. I'm sure that's how it comes up. But also they're witnessing what the world's going through. And he talks about loneliness, and he talks about like the ironic thing was that God created sex to help the loneliness for Adam. But ironically, if it's used wrong, that can leave him more lonely than ever. Because the act of sex is also connected to the after part of it. That's why there's such this drop off in porn, or not drop off, expansion in porn addiction, but also depression that hooks to it, because it's the thing that leads up to it, but then there's nothing after. That's why it has that connection on people, that has that hook on them. It's instant. It's everything they don't think they can or get or deserve, or things they won't say out loud, kinks are into, things. It's all of that, and then it's nothing immediately after you're pleasured, because there's nobody. It's so it can actually set you up. The idea of it, if you don't define it right, can set you up for more loneliness than you started with, which I thought was, a great way to look at it too. Like it was created in a certain intention, but like everything else, if we don't fully understand or define it for ourselves, it can be silently weaponized against us at our own doing. We're not taking the responsibility of the action, kind of distorting the meaning of it. And that's love too. I mean, I'm saying sex because I think when it was on the topic too, I think I touched on it in that, I don't know. Talking about like our ideas of what it means to both people that are involved too. When have we ever had a conversation, unless you've been in a relationship for a long time with a person, and maybe you've got to there, but when have you ever had a conversation early on with somebody about their view on sex? Really, like, I know we're gonna have sex with each other. How do you, like, what's it for you? Like, what's it for me? That's not happening. Has anybody had that before they had sex? If you have, wow, it's enlightenment. It doesn't happen because it's more like we act on the idea of what it's going to mean before we act on what it actually means for us, and see if it's actually even aligned with the person stepping opposite from us, because we so badly want the thing that we think it comes with. We so badly want the thing that we think it equals to, like this will get me to there, without talking about like, what is this for you versus what is it for me? Because truly, this swipe culture, this idea, it comes down to that, because it doesn't have to be talked about anymore. It's like everybody kind of intention is like, in that world, it's like it's already implied, and it leaves more and more off the table. It leaves more and more lack of conversation, understanding amongst two strangers. And I think that's some of the sickness. That's some of the problem that's happening. It's not the app. It's us allowing the ease of what technology's provided us to not use our fucking brains, to not have to do much more to get into it. You don't have to court somebody around for months before they even get your attention. You don't have to leave flowers on a card. You literally can just go online and date every night of the week. Like,
well, and it's all going to be dictated by what your soul's response is and how enlightened you are, right? Because a couple of different things are coming. I mean, whether you've been single or whether you've been involved with people, everybody knows the difference between sex and emotional intimacy. Look, if you're not being, most people are. Most people are avoiding and don't, to your point, do not know that it even exists or that it's separate or that it's its own thing.
Yeah.
But if you're avoiding, if you don't want to be exposed or known or cry in front of someone or share anything or really open or have a soul's connection with another human being, then you're just swiping or you're just out having, empty sex. Or you could be in a relationship for years and think that sex is intimacy. It is not, because you can be having sex, and if you're not kissing, if you're not touching. I just read an article in Psychology Today about the importance of kissing in marriage, and they brought up in the very beginning of the article about the scene in Pretty Woman where she says that she only has one rule: she'll do anything, but she will not kiss in her profession, because it's the most intimate thing that you can do.
Right.
And that's why on the flip side of it, inside of a marriage or a healthy relationship, it's so very important, because non-sexual touch, non-sexual intimacy on multiple levels is the soul's connection, is something that you can do without ever having sex. You can have orgasmic, crazy, amazing sex without ever touching a human being if you are open and aware. And like you said in the beginning, like, hey, let's talk about all the things that make up who we are in our culture and how we want our relationship to be. And I mean, I think those conversations do exist, and certainly more in my sect of, like the hippie, yogi guru type people, only because they're already looking into those things. But yeah, intimacy is a huge thing. And look, we don't even, we're missing
Let's talk about
intimacy.
that. Let's talk
Yeah,
about
let's
that. Let's talk about what you just said there. So the group, there's a sect of people that would consider themselves more open-minded and creative, thinking of like open sexual
tantric and
activity and all this stuff. Now, the argument on that would be that that's as dangerous as porn. That because of the level of awareness that people don't understand the definition of sex or what it really can mean and mean for others, not just your open-mindedness, it can be damaging and abusive. I know several people that are in open marriages that it worked for a long time. It seemed, but it never stops multiplying levels of intimacy between two human beings, that one is going to start having to make a decision they don't want to. You understand what I'm saying? That's what he was saying when it was created for a certain thing, but left alone, it can be abused. And that can happen in both these worlds, meaning the guilt, fear-driven sex world of Catholicism we grew up in, or the free, wide open mind of sexuality of like, we're all humans, we love each other. Both of those can be very, very, very dangerous.
Well, I wasn't going that extreme. I think anything in an extreme or depleted state is a state of disease. However, I was just saying the step beyond just sex into emotional intimacy is where the soul's connection is, whereas what most humans are avoiding. Now, yeah, there are the extremes on both end where you go, you're right, because the sect that I brought up can also tend to go to that total, like, hey, free love, every direction, anybody.
Yeah, what do you mean? I thought everything was
no rules, but that's not. I wasn't speaking on them, but
so.
I validate they exist.
Yeah, so I guess the idea in all of it, it's again goes back to the stats. It's like, what is the most? How much can we know for ourselves? What our responsibility in it? What are we attracting? What do we want? What do we truly want? I think I was speaking out before. Really, a lot was like, do you know what you actually want? If you wrote it down, like, do you know what you want? And then there's an argument of like, you can do that whole childish thing you've all done, whether it's in your teens or adulthood, where you've written down the person you wanted. Like, I want somebody to, be funny, and then we laugh. It's kind of what the profiles are today on Facebook or Instagram or a dating app or eHarmony. They put all this characteristics together of you answering what you want. But my argument's like, how the fuck do you even know if you're on this app doing this? My argument's like, if you're on eHarmony, and this is no shade on it, I'm saying if you're on eHarmony or on one of these apps, you have to fill out this whole thing of different questions and what would you like to see on your first date, or what's your favorite color, all these different things you can fill out. But don't you think if you knew all those things for real in your heart, like you really took time to answer those, that you might not even be on a website that's trying to link what your favorite food is, your color, your idea of a first date with somebody across the world. This is where I'm kind of getting at with this stuff. We're not being truthful to ourselves and our responsibility in how we go about connecting with humans, romantically or friendship. If I'm going on this and it's like, what do you like? What do you think your first? These are all dreams and fantasies. These are our fantasies of what we think we want. But if we're not already having it, we're not seeing it show up in our lives, maybe those aren't the fucking things. You know, a lot of people argue sometimes in the therapy world, they argue sometimes that what we say we want out loud has nothing to do with what we need. So it's a huge contentious point because it's like, well, how do you, I'm the one telling you, like, this is what I need in my life. It's like,
do people
Is it-
think that if they tell their truth, they won't get it? So therefore they have to constantly conform to be loved or be in anything at all?
well, I think it comes down to,
What is the basis?
it comes down to self-worth, what you think you're worth. Now, it's easy to say the dream of things and have no connection to it and be out like on a date. If you're on a date with somebody's sitting across from you and Portia asks me a question that I'm comfortable answering, well, I might stretch the truth of it, or I might leave some information out on it because I have the possibility of a feeling or a rejection or idea in front of my face. Whereas if I fill it out online, I don't have to answer to anybody. I can put the dream situation. I can put it, and then all the connection comes through your inbox, and you can kind of weed through what you feel is like your thing. You know what I mean? Like, oh, this guy's not for me. He doesn't really get it. Go ahead, Portia.
I just wanted to say, like, I think, like you had said, like, going through all of that, and then I want to pick out, like, I put down all my things that I think I'm looking for. And then I think the thing that happens when people are connecting is they get into that fear of, okay, if I tell this person exactly what I want, what I stand for, who I am, there's a possibility that they're not going to be receptive to that, right? And this is where we have to get good at that, because we've got to get out of the way what's not meant for us. You've got to put it all out there and not be afraid to be so vulnerable and so open. Like, a lot of people will say, like, oh, it takes time to get to know somebody, or no, actually, if you ask the right questions, you can get to know somebody pretty quick. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't take years to get to know someone, and so we use that as an excuse because we're hiding behind something. And if
The
we were
answers
so
you get are the
upfront
questions you ask.
Right. If we were so upfront to begin with, you will get to weed out everything that you don't want. You can tell within 5 minutes if this is going to go anywhere. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I have a connection, and yes, we can have connection with hundreds of thousands of people, but that doesn't mean we have anything beyond that, right? And so, like, yeah, we've got to be willing to put it all out there. And if, like, okay, say you want to live in, like, I don't know, you want to travel and you don't want to live in, like, one remote location. If you don't actually put that out there in the beginning of the relationship, and that person wants to live in Ohio or something, like, you're wasting your time.
You limit your opportunity.
We get so hung up.
Yeah.
Yeah. People get so hung up on the rejection piece. Rejection is just redirection. It's getting out of the way what's not meant for you so they can call in what is.
Well, let's talk about that example. You said use a travel one. Let's talk about more hardcore, which is more easily kept secret, is sexual orientation, sexual.
Right. What are your sexual
what do you
preferences?
want? What does your sexual life look like? Do you like to do this in bed? Is this way off? What
if you're not
don't
compatible,
talk about that and you get married and then you just sit in longing and lust for the things you actually love you never told. Right. And by the way, you don't know that she's even wanting to do or he's wanting to do because you've never.
Well, no, that's why people cheat. That's why they do porn. That's why they all the things because they can't be honest and they feel ashamed. And in an old Christian culture, that made sense because you were made to feel ashamed, bad about those things. But
you don't think like that. It's just missionary position. Get it done. If you don't have a baby, try again next time. There was really no like, what is sex? That's what I'm keep bringing it back to. And Levi kept saying, it's like, God gave it to us for multiple reasons. He wants you to have a great sex life, not just for reproduction. It's not just to have babies. It's to build concrete between each other. It's to glory the creator. It's to have pleasure in all the ways, but together. Like,
Right.
honestly, what do you like? What do I like? That has to be a thing. And it doesn't have to be one, if you guys are out open and honest with it, you can come in have a really crazy, healthy sex life that it's even embarrassing either. You should be sharing with your friends.
Right.
Not the details, but the idea. Like, it's not, you don't have to feel guilty to have that connection and that concrete between human beings behind closed doors. That's why it's behind closed doors. Otherwise, we fucking on the street.
I mean, they do in Europe.
Well,
Right.
Again, that's a weird Christian thing where like all around the world, people could be having sex right next to you at a bus stop and have no shame about it at all because they're just simply wasting time together pleasurably. But it's depending on where you came from, how you feel about.
well, of course. Our offenses guards are always
Right.
up. You know,
That's
they're-
probably not
they're-
going to happen. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So
Right.
like, yeah.
But
it
is guard up.
I think that all comes back to vulnerability. And then I think about like, if we're not willing to be upfront, these are the people that end up, they think I have a connection, right?
Right.
I have this chemistry, I have this connection, but I don't have compatibility, right? And so then it's like, I find myself 5 years later, we have two different visions for our lives.
Right.
And so it's like getting to be upfront. And
we connect.
And can you also are you capable of believing that? Do you already scrap it from the beginning? Like you put as much as you're willing to out there, you think you're being as honest as you can and whatnot. But still there's a part of you that doesn't truly believe you'll ever get what you want from anyone. So, it's always
that's your self-worth issue though.
It's your lie to yourself.
Right.
Yes.
You lie to yourself
Yeah.
because you're giving up. It's like you're living out of fear. You're saying I'm living out of scarcity. What I want doesn't exist. Right. And want is out of fear. And so I think like we also too, I don't think that you will never have to sacrifice yourself. You'll never have to say, you know what, I'm going to give that thing up because I'm going to go be with this person. No, that person will never need you to sacrifice that part of you. Do you know what I'm saying?
If
Like,
you're willing to be honest about it, yes.
right.
But you have to believe that those are deep. These are very, very deep wells because, even the three of us know about each other just because we know each other so well, how deep that well is. And then times thousands of people in the world and all the different experiences that we've all had. You really, truly have to be willing to give what you want to get. And you have to be willing to be emotionally available in all ways that are truly vulnerable and uncomfortable and those things. And, and hopefully find someone else who's willing to have those same conversations with you and try every day in a new way.
Yes. And I think you have to be willing to walk away when you know that it's not it. Do you know what I'm saying? You have to be willing. It can be great, but it still couldn't be it. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
well, it can control your time. It can control your time and your spirit if you don't allow the reality of all the possibilities, going back to math, that sometimes it's just not working out. This project is not working out. Creating light is hard. Like Edison, like Einstein, like to tell, there's iterations of things that get years and years and hours of people's energy and time and hurt and heart that end up just being nothing.
Yeah.
Like, that's heartbreak. To me, that's real heartbreak. Interaction between 49% and 51% women and male on the earth and the possibilities versus like spending and dedicating your life to an idea and a creation you believe so strongly is the answer and it fails. That's like fucking heartbreak to me. It's like, because you might not have another opportunity to lead such a passionate life again. Whereas interactions between humans, if you know it quicker, you know it. And you can add another great one, or you can get rid of this one and then find the great one, or relationship or romantic. Like, we have so much, but we lean so much on the idea of like, it's got to be the one because of where we are at the moment thinking about it. We're in the feelings of the moment. What we think in our head, the timing of our life, I want somebody or I don't. You build this thing up. And then all the extra stuff on the outsides. Let's just talk about general population, not us three talking about alignment. I'm talking about general population. What they're seeing every day is the things that are happening normally to them in life. What marriage is, because they see it like, oh, they got married, it's happy, and the wedding was awesome, it was beautiful, all the people went to it. And look, they're having your first kid, they're having your second kid, it's bliss. They must be, oh my God, these two are amazing. And if, I'm not going to say anybody's name ever, but I know a ton of my people, my circles, that looks exactly like that. If you're not looking deeply or you're not talking to them, because I've seen it and gone, wow, that's all the things I want, and known about it and be like, holy fuck. Like, holy fuck.
But then on the
Like
opposite
that.
spectrum is like somebody like mom who spent their whole entire life like taking care of everybody else and forfeiting love, even though it's all she ever wanted. I hope that regardless of, the boundaries of Christian beliefs, I really believe and hope that in some other life she gets to come back and she gets to be the love of somebody's life, and that it might be lifetimes, and it might be, I have met people I know I have spent other lifetimes with just innately, and I can't explain it to you, and I'm not going to in this moment, but so maybe too, like you said, in the moment it seems so, oh my God, especially when I feel that hit of the dopamine or the oxytocin or whatever it is, or oh my God, I love him, or he's the one, or whatever it is. But then in hindsight, you can always see why it was so clearly wrong on so many levels, and what the attractions were.
Well, we skip around a lot. That's the point.
Wisdom. But hopefully we're accumulating
we
knowledge.
We skip days of the equation. We want to do the long division, and we just want to give the answer and get the same grade.
Well,
when we know in school that you get marked down for not showing work,
right?
Not because the answer wasn't right. It's because they want to see that you're capable of spending the time to understanding the problem that's trying to be solved.
Right.
A
lot of those connections are lessons. They're sent your way because you need to learn from this person. You need to learn about yourself in this interaction, right? It's not the end all be all with that one person. It can feel like it, but it's not. Right. And then that's part of the lesson too.
So let me tie those two things together. I can tell you right now, just bringing it up. Like in school, I was very good at math, and I didn't want to do any of the work because I knew the answer already. I'm good at math. And what it felt like in school was I was faulted for being good at it. Like I was being faulted. If I didn't want to show my work, I'd get less of a grade when I was doing it. I wasn't cheating. I'm just smarter than you are. Mm-hmm. Why am I going to waste an hour on the test when it takes me 20 minutes? It just, to me, it doesn't, speaking of math, it doesn't mathematically make sense. I'm wasting my time. But, if I think about what I just explained, I understand also the other side. To me, it was like, what do they think I'm cheating? No, the idea of showing your work is to show the commitment of the time, to develop and solve a problem. I understand that, but what it did to me later.
And sometimes people don't know that. Like I used to know the answer, but I didn't know how to solve the problem. It wasn't because I was cheating. I clearly somehow, some way I knew the answer, but I also did not know how I got there. I just, so that's a problem in America or with people.
But so what it can do to you in long term in your adult life, what it can do to you is if you never spend the time to understand the process of solving a problem, you'll never really truly understand, like you just admitted,
right?
How you even knew it. That's a problem.
Yes.
That's a problem in life because mathematics is life. Everything we do is around the connection of numbers and ideas. So in my life, it became, I got good at human connection. I never looked at why. So I didn't value it the same way. I was good at it. It was natural to me. It was easy. Connecting with humans was easy. And then it was like, well, it wasn't initially like that with women, but how do I move this? And I started to use an idea, and then that became easy. And it's like, I never looked at the long division of it. And that hurt me more than it helped me. You know, where now I gotta see, like, look, if I know the answer and I know the things and I do all the work, I know the answers. But how do I create all the stuff before to get to the answer? How do I do if the answer is supposed to be this and for some reason it's not working out, that stat line's like a little wobbly up here. I gotta be able to go back and look at and like I'm looking at this thing. This just came up for me. I'm looking at these 10 things I have on hacks of a relationship and stuff. And I was looking at them the other day and I was like, fuck. Like it's not the first time I've read these. I'm looking at them, I'm like, I didn't hit 3 of those. You know what I mean? It's like,
Right. Like how do you
I'm good at
also
the
sustain
solution,
the
I'm good at the answer, but you gotta keep turning around looking, did I do the work? Did I
And
do
also,
the fucking
that
work?
means-
And I didn't.
Yeah, and it also means like and that how that translates inside a real life relationship with another person. Even as your sister, if I came and just lived with you, right? We'd have to create an algorithm that sustainably every day we showed up and worked at making it work consciously, just as two people living together in a space that aren't even in love with each other on that level. So
Right.
then you intertwine lives on a love level. And how do you, yeah, that's great that I can make you laugh. That's great that I can, give you an orgasm. That's great that I can, bring all your favorite things and anticipate your needs.
Right.
But how can I sustainably support you and still love myself every day of my life for 30, 40, 50 years?
Yeah. I think it's the hard part. It's the hard part because it's like, it takes you moments to look back. Am I doing the things? Like constantly checking with yourself, but it also, that last part, like, can I sustainably do this over the next 5 years? Like
and still love my,
let's start a year, 5
Right.
years. My life, it's easy for us to say the things like death do us part, like I love you forever, like you're the only person for me, you're my. It's easy to say those things because we haven't done any of this stuff to have been there. We're not at the end yet. We're not at 50 years. We're not at the end celebrating, see? It's the idea of the celebration without understanding that literally, if you believe you're going to find somebody, if you believe you're going to have a soulmate in life, if you believe you're going to have this person that's undeniably yours, and you think because you found the person for you, like that's what everybody writes these days. I'm just out here trying to find my person. Like, what the fuck does that even mean to you? Like, my person, if you found that person, what you're setting that thing for is that everything's going to be great. If I find my equal, my soul equal, that we can have a great life together, things will be great. I'll be great, they'll be great, we'll be great. The undeniable truth is, it don't matter who the fuck you find, if it's your person or somebody else's ex-person, that every single day, the only thing that matters is if the two of you can fall in a ditch together and help each other out of it.
Yep.
Because if you can't do that, or you don't want it to happen anymore, because you've been falling in ditches, you think you just find your person and you won't fall in it. No, now you're going to fall in one, but you can have 2 people in it. And now you can climb on their back and get to the top and get out and pull them out. That's the idea of loneliness or togetherness. But to think that because you found it or something or the one or the soulmate or this big idea, that's what I'm waiting for. I'm waiting for my person to show up. Like Amazon's going to fucking drop it off your door. Like you're checking your thing. Even if that happens, and I wish that upon everybody, it's still going to mean that now you're just going to fall in the holes together. And are you willing to be in the hole together and fight with each other, not against each other? Like I told you so. This is why we're in this hole. I fucking knew. I told you. Did I tell you yesterday? I told you. And then you're in the hole and you're going to die in there. Because what it's about is not finding the soulmate. It's about creating that partnership once you have it. Creating it into the dream. Creating it into your person. Because when you fall in the ditch, you're like, listen, like my math test. Let's get out of here as soon as possible with all the right answers. Get on my back, fucking pigeonhole you up there, throw a rope down, get me out of here, let's get the fuck out of here. That's it, right? Like, So I just
again
think
and
this-
again and again and again and again
yeah,
and again and again and again and again.
and you
for the
might
rest of your
literally.
life. Full
I heard this.
commitment.
I heard this analogy, like literally, you might help your partner out of the shittiest situation and thrust them into the next one immediately. I'm thinking to myself, holy shit! Like that, the whole analogy I'm using, like you might like be pulling them up, like and then throw them into the other ditch behind you. You have to start all over again because it's not because you have bad luck or I believe that certain people are going to get tested harder in their lives, period. And I do believe in my heart that it's chosen by a creator, that he picks the right people he knows that can handle certain things and wants them to want the other side to do something different with it, is why some people keep on hitting what they feel like is picked on or the hardships. And it's hard to like be in that and go, oh, I'm chosen. It's really hard to get over that emotion and like feel like you keep falling down. You're like, oh, it's because I'm the blessed one, or because I'm anointed somehow, that I'm rolling in poop every day and I smell like shit. Like, oh, I get it. You know, it's hard to realize that, but I truly believe, I really do believe. And I think some people fail too. I think some people have been chosen by God to take on some of the most difficult, fucked up shit that the three of us couldn't even comprehend at our level even. And sometimes they do fail and don't recover. And there's not a you're gonna recover. He's testing the hardest to see if they make the choice, because coming out of it, the things go like this. It's like wildfire spreading. It's like disease spreading in a good way.
Yeah. Hi, also, we're 5,000 years into humanity, okay? You like, how much hardship are we standing on the shoulders of? Okay. Like we're at one of it's I think about this all the time. Like there was a special on the other night about the 90s, and it was absolutely fantastic. And I mean, for me specifically, because that was the prime of my life, was the 90s. And I was thinking, God, were our parents as scared as adults are today in like societally? Like was everyone just constantly walking around scared? And then I was thinking, I mean, it must be like every generation must have thought theirs was kind of the worst or the end all times, or whether it was Vietnam or the Cold War or social things, or the rock and roll is going to kill everybody, or, you know, now it's the gays or whatever the hell. I mean, you know, it's always some huge, you know, revolutionary topics. And were they as scared as we were? But I was 20. It wasn't because I don't know if they were scared or not. Probably my mom was terrified. Probably all of the adults of that time were as terrified as we secretly are deep down about the things we don't have control over, right? But like as a 20-something in the 90s, I was like, man, that was the best time in history, you know? But yeah, so I want, you know, it's cyclical, and we're standing on the shoulders of giants and people who have had to, like you said, I mean, holy shit, how hard was it to make light happen, electricity or whatever, and how people were living in darkness until the 1900s. There was no light. Right now, everything that we're doing right now did not exist. We were all sitting in dark rooms with a candle. So how much harder was it to connect? And hopefully there was a couple of cute cousins in the tribe, because there was only like 200 people that lived in your tribe. So the chance of everybody finding love was even less scientifically or
let's just say that.
Yeah.
Doesn't even have to be cute, by the way. There's no options until there is options. You know, he said something like the accessibility to the options of the idea of sex is at its greatest level today. Yeah. So it's now we have variety, and now we can start making choices and picking through it. Like, well, I don't like that, the way their eyes are split apart. And I know before it was like, yo, there's 4 girls in this village. 2 of them were taken, and you go see which one likes me. Like it is partially what's available is a big portion of it. But the other thing you said is like, once something is done by somebody else's sacrifices, God given us, Jesus given us the ultimate sacrifice, literally dying for us, like it starts to become contentment for us. Light is mine. It's mine. I have it everywhere. It's mine. Like we just did. It's like we sidebar
all the sacrifice that it took for us to sit in this room right now and be lit in a room and feel safe.
How
Life and
fucking
safety.
rude. Yeah.
And we just like, that's off the table now. What's next?
Yeah.
The dating
What
app.
is wrong with us?
We
Well,
keep
so-
going,
So
and we're not doing the long
scientifically-
division.
Well, right. So scientifically and in the long division, tell me, so if we've gone to the opposite extreme, which now every person in the world is now available to us. You can date anybody in any country, anywhere in the entire world, as long as they're single. It doesn't matter age, religion, race, creed, whatever. Furby, whatever. Okay, but so what does that mean then? When all the choice, every possible choice is available, then what? When you can't, there's not just, the two people left in the tribe.
Well, you have to create, this is what I think I'm getting at. Like,
Right.
I've been everywhere in the world. Not just on the phone, like physically, I've been everywhere in this world. Like I could go anywhere in this world right now because of my attachment to really not much. Like I can move through this world any way I please. Now, does that make it, like some people, you're so lucky in your life? Well, listen,
No.
it's all relative to what you think luck is or what you think accessibility is. Like I've been everywhere, and all it's done to me really is know more about more things that sometimes leave me more isolated. So it's not always like it's oh my God, you have access. No, I think to answer your question for me anyway, is knowing everything allows you to finite on the things that's really meant for you. Like knowing everything. Why books have never gone away? Why are everybody that's been ever successful, they always look up to, reads books still today, reads, they absorb knowledge, whether it's fantasy, fiction, fact, it doesn't matter, nonfiction, they read, because what it does to your brain is it opens up the possibilities of everything so you can start to narrow who you are in everything. I think it's the opposite. When you don't expose yourself to everything, you can make really poor decisions. Because you're limited in that streamline. You have the one person to talk to, and you're like, that's everything. I think now, if you know everything, you have accessibility to every man and every woman, every race, every age that you could possibly fall in love with anybody. Your responsibility today is to have this thing I'm looking at on my phone that I told you that I looked at again last week, and I failed it. I failed my own device. You need that, and you need to commit to that. Because then if you're within that refined definition of yourself, all the millions will narrow down like this in a funnel. And then your thing comes through that. And I think it could pop through as India and then as Asia. It won't be like, oh, you like blondes. That's such a surface level. That's the app. Like, what are you into? What's your favorite food? Like,
but you
what would you do on what's your perfect date? Oh, I love like weekend trips on private planes. Like,
I love that you said everything you said. I love that you said that so much because you did it. You did what we do in every Connect group every night for the last 3 years. I love it. You brought it all the way around full circle to what we always, no matter what we begin talking about, the answer is work on self, become best self, love self. The rest works itself out through the law of attraction. The more authentic we get, no matter how many possibilities, we are.
It's magnetic. The energetic thing was the focus plan I used and the mind stuff we talk, but it has to be, it's got to be this field of magnetic. It's when you build your nucleus, the engine, the thing that produces the light, and that does combustion engine, things that make us fly in airplanes. When you build that nucleus, that there's a magnetic field that comes to it, right? Like what all of a sudden one day everybody just started flying everywhere in the world? They just trusted that a thing that they have no comprehension of how it fucking glides through the air. They're like, that's how we get around. How does an airplane fly? Wings. No. How does it stay in the air? What about when it's slowing down to land? Why doesn't it just fall out of the air? Like the aerodynamics, right? The science we don't really appreciate the long division is what I keep saying, right? Portia.
I just wanted to say that
Digital hand, like you went to digital hand to physical hand, by the way.
you like that.
In the same
Um,
corner. The same corner.
It's in our courage to own our authenticity. That's where our magnetism lives, right?
Mm.
And when we own that authenticity, we attract in our heart's desires beyond our wildest dreams because we are in alignment with our frequency, our heart. We're in alignment. I do believe everything starts in the energetic field. And yeah, we've got to be it to receive it.
Totally. You said it earlier. You didn't say it, but you were saying it. It was like, if we want better answers, we got to ask better questions. And the question I think we always come back to in all these is like, you know, like,
well, I think
you
there's
check
a
in
lot
here.
of fear too. There's a lot of fear that we get so hung up in, we want to make it work and we want to make this work. And it's like, we get so one-sided when there is abundance of possibilities and opportunities, right? People get they get such a scarcity mindset and they're like, oh, I'm never going to find a connection again. No, actually, if you believe that, then yes, probably you never will. But if you believe that there's an abundance of connection because you will attract in what you truly desire, then you will continue to magnetize that in your reality, right? And so you'll keep getting a reflection back into your reality, what you do believe.
Totally. Yeah. Well, where are we on? 17. All right, good. Yeah, I'll try to attach the other thing if I can. I don't know. I record it on voice recording, so I just gotta download it to a different platform and I'll put it on YouTube, but I'll put them back to back so that they're close. I tried sharing it with the group, but it won't download over the phone. It's too long of a file. So I will. I'll make sure.
If you can just send us the link. Oops, shit.
Yeah. I had to send it through email though because it was so big.
Okay.
I'll send it. I'll put it on there. But anyway, appreciate you guys showing up. Yeah, always a good conversation. Always revert right back to us. We have the responsibility. I think it's important to obviously take responsibility in anything, right or wrong. I think the scary thing and the beauty of taking responsibility, the scary thing is you're the one to blame. I think that's why some people avoid it sometimes. But man, when you're right and you already put it out there, you know, everybody knows what that feeling is like and how good that is. Like when you said something and you were like, you're telling your friends, they're not listening to you, and then it happens. You're like, oh yeah, see, I told you. No, you don't have to be an asshole about it, but you know I'm here. You're like, I'm just saying, I told you. And it feels good because you took accountability for something you truly believed in. You took a stance on something, you took a stake in it, you invested in it, you believed in it, and you weren't scared to say it out loud. I think we have, for every one thing that we say, or bold to say, we have 9 more, 8 more out of those 10 that we hold in. Because we're just like, I don't want to say it in this crowd, or I don't share with these people. But no, fucking say it. The only thing that can happen is you're wrong. So what? Fucking wrong if you keep it in too. You're still wrong, by the way. If you had 8 awesome ideas and then it come through, you're still wrong. You just didn't tell anybody. You're dealing with it. You're like, fuck, I don't know anything. I mean, so you might as well take a shot. It's Vegas, right? Life is Vegas, black or red.
Yeah, at the end of the day, just none of it matters, only to you, really. So,
fuck, I mean, seriously. So, anyway, like we always talk about, accountability of ourselves, no matter how we started. I love you guys. Appreciate you. Have a wonderful week.
you too.
It is week. I don't even know. March, second week of March. Jesus.
Yeah.
All right. Have a second. Wonderful. Is parade?
Already happened.
When's St. Patty's Day?
I don't know. Parade Day took it over in Binghamton. We have the world's biggest. We have the world's biggest dicks now, so yeah. Saturday,
Like penises or actual
Both.
guys or assholes?
both.
Both.
Parade day was Saturday, and St. Patty's Day is like what, the 14th or something?
Oh, okay. All right. So it hasn't passed yet. All right.
Yeah,
All right. No, 17th. Got it.
17th.
All right. Well, happy St. Patty's Day. I'll see you guys next Monday.
You can tell us again.
Yep. Next Monday be Patty's Day. Patty's Day, let's all wear green.
Or orange.
Orange.
Mm-hmm.
Love you guys. Adios.
Love you.